if I go onto the floor, see, can you still see me?
Yeah.
When I come onto the floor, if I'm going to do anything, I always put all my core strength in before I arrive onto the floor, including in the back of the waist, so lower abdomen, front of waist, sides of waist, back of waist, and the ribs still working. Once you let the weight of your body go into the floor, you're broadly speaking sunk, pretty much literally. Tailbone needs to move back, and then you're coming through, the waist opens forward, and then upper back through, and then through. And then each time you breathe, it's all through the whole spine moving. You know. So, and then eventually the waist starts to go into the floor, but it's with control. It doesn't, push down like that. It keeps moving forwards with me. I try to keep the ribs and the pelvis moving towards each other as I'm going. Good, yes. And then that really helps you because the spine's not weighted into the floor. And then coming right from the tailbone moving forwards, and it's really a forwards action more than up. And then you get an in-breath, and then you come forwards again. That's it, good. Yeah, good. And keep pulling the crests of the hip bones forwards towards the base of the ribcage. Keep the spine really opening, try not to push with the arms, try to keep the work behind you in the upper back, lifting you from behind. Good. And if you hold for any length of time again, I just keep the spine really fluid. Have that sense of the tailbone keeps moving back, your spine keeps releasing and lengthening. Tailbone moves back, whole of the spine releases and lengthens. We're not really going anywhere, but you just keep the energy going through the spine. Yeah. And then it stays active, it stays comfortable because the spine is alert. And then as you're ready again, releasing it back down. And if you think about it, if you've ever watched dancers in performance, even when they're still, they've got loads of energy going through. And I think it's again that they keep the spine really active even though they're standing still. How are you doing?
Yeah.
So you're coming forward, letting the strength come from behind, so you're lifting from the back of your waist, back of your ribs, shoulder blades wide and moving down the back. Shoulder blades can push forward to help you open the front of the chest, and the back of the waist, back of the ribs, shoulder blades push forward, move down the back. You're trying to have at this stage still no extra pressure into your arms. Yeah, that's good, yeah. And then just letting the spine work, shoulder blades still stay, and that's it. Yeah. The back of the waist keeps working, crests of the hips keep moving towards the base of the rib cage. Yeah, good. Yes, that's very nice. Yeah. And then as you're ready again, just rolling it down segment by segment, really opening all the way through. And then probably just let the head relax to one side. Yes. So, always very good for us to do back bends. Really wakens up the nervous system.
Yes, and it's definitely something that I don't.
I think people just find them so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, people force into the spine with the arms. But I mean, certainly come up higher, but come up and then keep coming from your back. Of course I've got weight going into the arms now, but the power of the lift is still from behind, and just a little bit stabilising with my arms.
Yeah.
So now, how are you feeling? Do you feel like tackling a Pilates style plank, or?
Yes.
Right. So with that, might find it quite different. This is my new system for teaching plank. It's really very, very hard to get people to do plank without pushing their hips up into the air. So the system starts like this, where we're in the all fours position, and right angles front of hip, back of shoulder joint. And then you try to, as if you've got a piece of string tied to your shoulder blade, it lifts up. So head stays in position. There's a tiny, tiny twist through the thoracic spine in the rib cage. And then the shoulder blade on the other side, it picks up and the arm just hovers a little bit and come back. Just give that 2 or 3 practices. Yeah, good. So you've got that quite quickly. And then we're going to keep the arms where they are, but we do the same thing in the back of the hips. So again, just check if this is all right for you. So it's as if the back of the hip's got a piece of string, lifting the back of the hip towards the mat, just a mini twist. The back of the hip towards the ceiling, a mini twist, and come back. So the leg not moving outwards. It does a little bit hover away from the floor, but it just hovers. And then other side. Good. And it should be that you feel your core work quite hard in the lower abs. Does that seem to?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we do opposite shoulder blade, opposite hip. Opposite shoulder blade, opposite hip. Yeah, good. Good. So you really have got your back strength stimulated and the core. Then, for our next trick, we're going to do 2 shoulder blades, 2 knees. So, back of the hip still lifts, but you get that powerful lift in the lower abdomen that we had when we just did one knee, but with both knees lifting. So, even though both knees are lifting and the toes are tucked under now, avoiding putting effort into your legs to get that position. So, shoulder blades, both of them, strings pulling them to the ceiling, both hips pull to the ceiling, lower abdomen lifts. Yeah, keep the back in neutral, try not to round. So what's tending to happen a little bit is that slight rounding, bringing the strength forward. So keeping the strength back of waist, back of ribs, upper back, sides of ribs. So I need to dip the sacrum a little, that's it. And then, yeah, same, that's it, yes, shoulder blades wide, moving down the back. It's a tricky concept to get. Yeah, both shoulder blades, and this is it. Yes, that one. How does it feel?
Yeah, really easy.
It's quite hard because what we're trying to do obviously is take the power muscles, the dynamic leg muscles, hip flexors and chest muscles out of it. Only do this next part if you feel that it's all right.
It seemed, by the way, on the last one that it was sort of engaging down the outside of my, that's where the sort of the lift was coming from.
We need to be careful not to let the hips go under. So all of this works from the neutral spine position, back of hips, back of shoulders, back of head level, slight dip at the small of the back and at the back of the neck. So that your initial lift from the floor comes from the core. It might just be getting tired, so the sacrum needs to sink downwards. Shoulder blades coming this way, and then this stays here, no pressure against my fingertips, it keeps falling away. And then if you can, you add that one.
Yeah. Right, yeah.
It might be enough.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And not do the plank, to try and get that.
Right.
What tends to happen in plank positions, something like that. Let people come from the legs and the hips are nearly always up here. And if people do get the hips low, it's still something like that.
Yes.
It's the same with downward dog. People push up into the legs and then the spine is always never really releasing. With this technique, if I were to want to come into downward dog, I lift from my core, I open back. But my core is lifting my hips, not my leg.
Right.
My legs just open up underneath the lift. It's the same if I wanted to do plank. My arms have to come a bit in front. Shoulders, pelvis. My legs stay passive. I keep my trunk working. I pull my trunk away from my legs so that my legs open, and I should be in a neutral spine position, and it would be easy enough to pull a leg away if I wanted, because I didn't use the legs to get there. But I mean, only do it if you want to, because it's
Probably one, maybe once.
all right. Yeah. And so stay neutral. Yeah. See? And then you try to get the neutral position. You try to carry yourself forward with your trunk, and the leg you just pull away from the legs. Good. And then coming away. Yes.
Yeah, there's tension in my arms, but my back is
Nice and long.
it doesn't have tension. Yeah,
Yes,
relaxed,
yes,
or not,
yes.
doesn't
No, it's not relaxed.
not relaxed, but yeah.
The spine is able to lengthen in the centre of the movement.
Yes.
And that's what will give the movement freedom to travel into another movement. But that was very good actually for a first attempt. Or any attempt really.
Yeah. Wow.
It takes most people months to do a Pilates plank and actually be in neutral. I mean, if not
Well.
years. But
I think I'm beginner's luck.
I don't know. You are pretty coordinated.
Well, don't know about that, but anyway. What's next? Anything? Or
Well,
what have we done? How long was that?
we've done. I don't know.
That's probably an hour, actually, isn't it?
Probably coming up to an hour. I mean, you can do a cat stretch if you like to release the spine after all those things.
That's what we're going to do.
And then we could do the forward bend at the
See, I
chair.
can't get onto this hip still.
Oh right, yes, you have to lift
Yeah.
around.
Which I'm probably doing badly.
So you're doing pretty well. So we've got our spine nice and long, since we set it up last week, and then again hips broad and the ribs and the shoulders broad, and then shoulder blades wide and moving down the back, and again all the strength coming from the outside of the arm, so you get the lift from the little finger into the outside of the arm into the shoulder blade. And then from there, it's a deep lift in the muscles just in front of the tailbone. And then a powerful broad and wide lift into the lower abdominal muscles. Navel pulling to the spine. Sides of the waist and the front of the waist lifting and up towards the spine. Engage the muscles at the base of the breastbone, pulling the floating ribs towards each other. And then the head and neck and shoulders release forwards. Then we can always breathe in here. And then as you're ready again from the tailbone, unfurling. So just trying to keep the mind in the spine, trying not to get into the eyes and wanting to look forwards, vertebra by vertebra, unfurling back to the flat back. And then it's essentially a mini cobra here. So holding the midsection supported, collarbones stay broad and wide, shoulder blades move down the back, and you just reach upwards and forwards through your upper back. Very good. Then from here, it's the idea that, again, you engage to the muscles just in front of the tailbone, move the tailbone down, keeping the insides of the hip joints released, and then your broad and wide scoop and hollow to lift the sacrum, that's it. Navel pulls the spine, sides of the waist, front of the waist, lift up, base of the breastbone, and then, very good, and then the head releases forwards and downwards, and then you can get a nice breath back into your upper back. Gives you a nice stretch usually in the upper back, that's it. And then from there again, as you're ready, from the tailbone, you're moving forwards. And keeping the deep lifts, lower abdomen, navel to the spine. And then again, collarbones stay broad, shoulder blades wide, move down the back, moving forwards and upwards through the upper spine. Very good actually, that's really well remembered.
I'm not sure well, actually, I was just following what you were saying. I remember nothing, but I can't. I'm not sure I'm sort of coming out of the stretch. The stretch feels very good, but and because unlike normally the stretch is actually all around your shoulders. Because you just sort of, reach up. So I can certainly feel the difference, but it's that.
So tailbone goes down, is it? Broad and wide scoop and hollow.
Yeah.
Navel pulls the spine, sides of the waist, front of the waist, base of the breastbone. Squeeze the muscle, ribs squeeze in, and then head and neck move down, that's it. We breathe in there, breathing back. And then from the tailbone, lengthening forwards. Now is this the harder part?
Yeah.
Yeah, so tailbone reaches back as you keep the lift in the muscles directly in front of it, and then you come to the sacrum forward and through the waist forward, keeping the muscles working backside front. ribs moving forwards. Try not to let the midsection sink. Yeah, and then up, and yeah, not letting it sink. Yeah, and then forward spine lengthens through, shoulder blades wide, moving down the back. That's it. Yes, good. Which it didn't sink on the other two.
Yeah, it's probably because
you tried to send the tailbone back on this one, and that caused the pelvis to angle differently.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I was doing it right with the other two as I was coming back.
Well, you were doing it pretty well. I mean, it could be that sometimes you might feel there's a point where you're not absolutely mobilising, that there's a little chunk where it's a little bit stiff. And I would say that with that, maybe it's not right at the beginning that the tailbone moves back, but as you come down, if you encounter that little stiff part, that you reach the tailbone back, then you maybe have control. Yes. How is that?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just because doing the side stretches, you're just saying, you know, as you go out and as you come back in, do it vertebrae by vertebrae, and do it vertebrae by vertebrae. I can feel that, and I can do that.
Yes.
But vertebrae by vertebrae, coming out of the hunch.
Yes.
I can't feel that. That feels like so.
Yes.
That's what was confusing me. I can't work out how to do that.
I think you can feel it more at the point where you're able to get a distinct anchor point, at least for the mind, at the tailbone. Because coordinating in the all fours is really, really difficult, because whilst we coordinate our spines upright, we're used to being upright, but having the back parallel to the floor and coordinating without sensory information from the front or the back is quite hard. So that's just one of the things I've devised, I suppose, for myself, to understand that where my tailbone is, and then if I have a distinct feeling of where my tailbone is, I can from there lengthen the rest of my spine away from it.
Right.
I can follow on.
Okay, yes.
Yeah. So there's maybe not just at the very start of that coming down, but you get the lift at the front of the tailbone, you start to lengthen, and then as soon as you're able to lengthen the tailbone away from the rest of the base of the spine, you keep the tailbone as your
so it's almost vertebra by vertebra in a horizontal, not as a drop into a sort of reverse arch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Although that's the way it is often shown or practiced.
Yes.
But not usually from a Pilates perspective. And also the problem with that kind of an arch is that you're going with gravity. So exactly what Ursula was talking about, the facet joints get worn out. I'm not saying that's what's happened to her, it should just be the way her spine's constructed and all the rest of it. But facet joints get worn out because they've got cartilage on them. And if we just keep loading into them, they'll wear out. And so with this one, yes, you still get a lovely back bend, but it's very moderated by where we're keeping the pelvis. From the way
it's a long bend, not a sharp one.
Yes. Yeah. So
Right, that makes sense.
You could go deeper if you wanted to, but I mean that's really a Pilates count I'm showing.
Yes.
And it's very useful for training the strength for the Sphinx, and then you can go higher, as I was showing in the Sphinx.
Yes.
I think it's better in the Sphinx. You've got more space to lengthen the spine into the back bend than in the all fours, where the solid bones of the arms and the legs will tend to put more pressure onto the spine. You know, because the spine's all these short bones with soft tissue in between, and that's why we can wrench it a lot, but that does wear it out. So with the long bones, when they can just push into the soft tissue of the spine, that's why that can happen. But it's a forced action on the spine. Whereas really, wherever you have a freely movable joint, you have, if you've got the patience to work for it, the strength to support that joint independently. It doesn't have to be pushed and forced by the power of a long bone.
Yes, but also I think the release is not so much in stretching it the other way, but in lengthening it and sort of increasing the gap between
Yes,
vertebrae,
exactly.
rather than just sort of bending it back the other way, you know, like it's been permanently bent this way, and now you need to sort of bend it back. Yeah.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's not about necessarily going between those extremes.
Yes.
That's a sort of, it's still out there a fair bit, but it's what I call a 1950s approach to exercise.
That's what I've always done. Yeah, but I'm sure that when I've done it, even with a trainer in the gym, when I've done it, it's just been.
I think a lot of people just don't understand it.
Yeah, well, clearly they don't. Yeah.
You know, but I
I
mean,
haven't. I've thought. Well, I haven't quite thought it through, but yeah, it was much more. We'll just bend it the other way. You know, bending it this way. You stretch it that way.
Yes.
Then bend it the other way.
yes,
Stretch it that way. Bend it the other way, and that will, you know, that'll ease the tension. But
yeah,
actually,
and it probably does for a time.
yeah, actually, what you really want is. I mean, when I'm feeling very little. Actually, any of the tension that was in my back is all gone now.
That's good.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I don't often feel like that.
Yes, and that's a lot of what the way in which I work is working for.
Yes.
In fact, I used to have a lot of tension in my lower back actually as well, even in my teens, and I have very little now. You know, and with all the stuff I do, as long as I'm getting
It's a
in
low
there.
stress. It's a low stress life.
So, yes, I mean, you know, I mean, you can come down, but I mean, yeah, it as soon as you come very low, that's where I can feel that the spine's converging on itself.
Yes.
And the only way, you see dancers do this, the only way that you can do it is you release the leg, and then you use the leg to keep lengthening the spine, but obviously you hold it under control with the core, not just sink into it. You know, then you can, but I've released the solid thigh bone to be able to let my spine
Right.
really open rather than,
Yes.
because I've got soft tissue between
Yeah.
everybody. Anyway, I know you've grasped that, but there is a way, but it's, you know, there's lots and lots of stuff out there. I mean, there's all these people with their PhDs in anatomy of movement, anatomy of dance science. They write books, you know, I read them, and excuse me, I've studied philosophy of the aesthetic. It's all about three-dimensional form and understanding it. And I have an unusual take because I'm not steeped, my intellect's not steeped in the field so much, but I'm taking
Yes.
my way of thinking about shape and space and dimension, applying it to the knowledge that I read, other people's research, and then teaching from out of that. So it does give it a slightly different edge, but a lot of the techniques I'm working with are freely available in the field of information. It's out there, you know.
Yeah, sure.
But a lot of people are not necessarily engaging with them.